Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Do I Have Time For This? The series that looks at old and new video games, from indie to AAA and everything in between, to help you figure out if you've got the time to play, finish, 100% complete a game, or to just leave it in your backlog to forever gather dust. Today we're looking at another sequel to one of Sony's latest IPs, courtesy of developer Sucker Punch, Ghost of Yōtei. When Ghost of Tsushima first released back in 2020, I had a significant amount of free time, as you can probably have guessed due to certain events in the real world, and I drank that game in over the course of a few weeks. There was something about having such an immersive world and compelling story that I was happy to spend 61 hours roaming the fields and cutting down the Mongol invaders as Jin Sakai. Having spent so much time in this world, I was surprised when the sequel was set so many years in the future. Now following protagonist Atsu as we get revenge for the Night of the Burning Tree, where, as a child, her entire family is killed by the Yōtei 6, an infamous gang of murderers that found power in Ezo in the time it took Atsu to grow up to be a skilled young swordswoman. I made a video when the sequel was first shown off where I discussed the fact that Ghost of Yōtei very much looked like more of the same, and all I'll say for now is, if you've played the original game, you'll very much be at home here, but with some very fun quality of life additions and gameplay switch ups thrown in to make it a more fun experience from a gameplay standpoint. That being said though, I think Ghost of Yōtei is very much another safe Sony sequel, and as such, the overall package doesn't quite live up to the original, iterating instead of pushing the medium forward. This footage was captured on a regular PlayStation 5, and once I realised it was automatically set to graphical mode and switched to performance, this game ran perfectly at a solid 60 FPS with insanely fast load times. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoy the video. If you want to go the extra mile in terms of support, you can now become a channel member to get some extra perks for only $1.99 a month. Now without further delay, join me as we head out across Ezo to scratch out all the names on our list in blood as part of Atsu's quest for justice. Ghost of Yōtei is an intentionally slow-paced game, and as such you start the game with a very slow-paced tutorial. This means you're locked into a lot of cutscenes and on-the-rails set pieces until the world finally opens out and gives you a taste of what's in store for the rest of the game. As I said before, this is a very bloody revenge tale, and the story itself is very blue-eye samurai coded. Like this Netflix series, the main character Atsu is well trained but often suffers in combat, barely scraping through most scripted fights in the game. Overall, I'd say the story itself is pretty tropey, and follows a lot of conventions you'd see in your standard samurai film, with the wizened old masters teaching the ways of the sword, spear and kusarigama to young Atsu as a means of passing the torch to the younger generation.
So I would say again in a sentence, oh my god, Joanna is so good at gooning, she always looks brilliant.
Whilst the story is in my opinion weaker than the original game, and we'll get into why later on, the main way Ghost of Yōtei excels is via the world of Ezo and the way this sprawling map is designed and presented to you. Rather than being one continuous map, Ghost of Yōtei is segmented into a few regions, which allows for incredibly fast load speeds. Whether it be fast travel or loading the game from scratch, it only takes a second. These kinds of insane load times like I just showcased seem to be reserved for Sony's first party games on the console, but it's great to see it used here. There's also some amazing tech in the first area that allows you to switch between the past and the present, truly showing off the power of the PS5's SSD, but after this introductory segment, it almost never actually gets used ever again. The innovation of the open world in Ghost of Yōtei is from the way the content is served up to you, the player. Whilst you can follow plumes of smoke in the distance, or a yellow bird much like the original game, you can also use your spyglass to find faraway POIs to mark them for later, or you can buy map fragments to take part in a kind of matching minigame to find their location on the main map. You're also given a lot of missions and quests whilst you're out and about, whereby if you save a villager under threat or liberate a camp, someone will tell you something useful that's nearby. You can also find fully fleshed out side quests just by talking to a stranger in a bar or giving someone 5 minutes of your time when you bump into them out in the open world. It's this diegetic way of serving up content that really helps you feel immersed in the world, and not just ticking boxes as you'd feel in something like an Assassin's Creed game. The content actually feels tailor-made to keep you constantly discovering new things for yourself rather than plotting to waypoints on the map. This doubles down on the vibe of the original game by letting you get truly lost, and interactions become more meaningful than get small quest, do it, get reward.
Why, is that the item you don't remember picking up from 3 hours ago? Could you give it to me? You have helped me very much and done a very good thing. By the next time you see me, I will surely have accomplished my great goal. Bleh. I'm dead now. I died doing the thing with the thing you gave me.
This whole system is only strong in the opening of the game, however, and the further you get into the game, the more it starts to feel very video gamey, especially when you, the player, are being told something for the 10th time, only for Atsu to act surprised to hear the information, like it's the first time she's ever heard it. This means that eventually it will just become a tick box list of stuff to do, just with a more interesting veneer on it. In terms of the actual activities you can do, there's not much innovation here. We see the hot springs, fox hunts, bamboo cuts and shrines return from the first game, alongside the enemy camps to clear out. There are some insanely fun side missions that are like Legends, offering fun set pieces and gear, and the haiku minigame is now painting instead.
This is an art attack? This is an art attack? This is Art Attack!
Atsu can also set up camp, where she can craft ammo and cook food for buffs with a DualSense minigame. Something I was quite shocked at was how much Sucker Punch used the DualSense movement mechanics and touchpad as few studios ever do. I have to say though, Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has perfected the smithing minigame, and no one will ever come close to topping that. So whilst I appreciate the effort, my man Henry beat you to it, Atsu. The shamisen was also a nice addition to make Atsu a bit less one note in the character department, as you use the DualSense touchpad to connect with other characters through music. Friendly NPCs can also pop by the camp to offer tips and trade too, further aiding in the immersive world building offered by the game, by showing people can just turn up whenever they feel like it, and not just stay statically stuck to their shop floor. There's also a bounty board which can offer some pretty fun fights, and I will say that all of these activities do feel fun to do, purely because of how good the gameplay is. I lost count of how many times I'd set a waypoint, then end up spending an hour getting distracted with other things on the way there. The gameplay just feels that smooth that it's its own reward, as the actual rewards can often be a bit lackluster. So let's finally get onto that gameplay, the thing that makes the repetitive open world activities feel more rewarding to complete. One of the main overhauls to the combat in Ghost of Yōtei was to implement different weapons into the game, instead of just using different katana stances like in the first game. Because Atsu is a mercenary by trade and fought in wars,
I've covered wars, you know.
This means Atsu can and does use multiple weapons throughout the course of the game as a way of achieving victory by any means possible. Instead of the competent, honourable fighting style found in Tsushima, Atsu will use anything lying around to defeat her enemies, allowing her to throw spears, swords, and even empty jars to turn the tide of a battle in her favour. The different weapons you use work on a rock paper scissors format, so spear trumps Kusarigama, Kusarigama trumps shields, dual swords trump spear, and so on. This is then built upon later in the game with elite enemies who switch weapons on the fly, meaning you may start a fight having to use a spear, but find you have to swap your weapons around a couple of times in order to get the best advantage in combat depending on who you're facing and the combination of enemies present. The core idea behind the combat itself remains the same. Break the enemy's stamina bar with heavy attacks, and follow up with light attacks, and in my opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The weapon you choose will massively affect the amount of stamina you take away, depending on if it's strong against that enemy's weapon type. So whilst you could stick with one weapon if you had a favourite, you are encouraged to switch often to get the most out of combat. You'll also find a wolf companion who shows up every now and then to help you out in combat, and whilst they're definitely not essential and the missions you do to increase the bond are very repetitive, seeing your furry friend jump in to help you in a standoff or jump in out of nowhere is always a welcome addition. The other side of the gameplay here is stealth, which unfortunately remains very similar to the original game. You hide in knee-high grass, perform an assassination or two, go back into the grass, rinse and repeat. The stealth, at least at the start, is very basic, with you not having the skills or tools to really do much beyond single takedowns, and if you don't unlock some of the better takedown options in the skill tree pretty quickly, almost every stealth section you face is going to turn loud very fast. What I do appreciate here is that there isn't really that annoying stealth trope you get in a lot of games, where if you get spotted, suddenly everyone and their dog knows where you are. Instead, you can end up fighting a few soldiers, then re-engage stealth and continue as you were. You can get some amazing clips online of people pulling off crazy chaos stealth tactics, but I'm far too old for that level of skill now. Just know the options here are pretty good once you expand the skill set a bit via the skill tree. Speaking of the skill tree, it really doesn't have that much to it, so I'll keep it light. Aside from the wolf skill tree, which has its own separate thing, you have three main trees to upgrade: Onryo, Melee, and Revenge. Onryo is essentially all of the ghost-like powers Atsu has, the ability to strike fear and take out enemies with precision, with some cool moves and stealth. Melee covers the skill trees for the 5 different weapons you get, and Revenge covers the scrappier aspects of the game, like throwing melee weapons, using your horse as a battering ram, or upgrading your standoff, returning from the original game. The last thing I want to mention in the gameplay section is the insane amount of customization you can get in Ghost of Yōtei. There are skins for pretty much every single item you can equip. With some of them being references to other Sucker Punch franchises, the level of detail on something as small as a katana skin is so cool to see. The armor sets are also amazing, and whilst I struggled to keep away from the ninja outfit once I got it, I couldn't help but fully upgrade any set I found to see how it changed over time. So let's get down to it. How long does this game take? I fully completed 3 areas of the game before mainlining the story with a few distractions, and I ended the game on 48 hours. If you don't want to engage with this beautiful open world, the main story will take around 28 hours. All in all, a very long story campaign. For 100% completion, covering all the trophies and all optional content, you're looking at around 60 hours. In terms of the trophies, nothing is particularly hard or missable, and you only need to get around 85% completion to actually get the Platinum Trophy. But if you've gone that far, you'll probably want to complete the rest of the game anyway. When it comes to both value for money and respecting your time, this is a full price AAA title at £70 or $70, but I think the level of polish, both from an artistic and technical standpoint, make it worth every penny. If you vibe with the general feel of the game and enjoy what I believe to be very solid combat, you'll have a great time, and with the open world being so dense, you'll never be short of something to do. The game can be restarted to the exact point you were at before within a minute, making it great to get started, but you do have to be conscious of the fact that the game only saves at certain points via autosave, and manual save doesn't always leave you in the exact spot if you're in the middle of doing something, although it is pretty good at getting you close to it. This game is high budget and a high price, but there's definitely a lot of game here to slice your katana through. There are also different modes to change how the game is presented stylistically, like lo-fi beats when wandering the open world, Japanese voice acting over the English version, a mud and blood mode dialing up the carnage to 11, or even a black and white mode like the Kurosawa films, all to encourage replayability. When all is said and done, I do recommend Ghost of Yōtei, whether you're a fan of the original or not. But I will have to caveat this recommendation somewhat, because I don't think you should do everything this game has to offer, as you're liable to get open world fatigue from the lack of variety in terms of the open world activities. Sucker Punch have managed to refine their mechanics and approach to world design so much since the first game, and you can really see the time was spent making Ezo a place you want to spend time in. The problem for me was the size of the game overall, where it feels like you've seen everything there is to do besides the main story after you've completed the first area, and you're just going through the motions every time you get to a new area, doing the same handful of activities over and over again for very little reward. What starts off as diegetic quests and fun open world encounters start to show their by-the-numbers mechanical approach over time, and when you're offered to go see the local sensei for the 20th time by a random settler, the cracks in the immersion start to appear and the game never quite gets itself back on track for me after that starting area. This player freedom also causes a problem in the story, as being able to approach certain parts of it at any time leaves a lot to be desired in terms of character progression, where Atsu seems to have a lot of growth as she finishes an area, only to go back to being the hateful Onryo in the next one. This is a massive shame, as the story of Jin Sakai turning from honourable samurai into a ghost willing to do whatever it takes was the core of Ghost of Tsushima, and choosing a standard revenge plot for the sequel only pales in comparison. I ultimately had a lot of fun playing Ghost of Yōtei. The combat is incredibly satisfying, the world feels lived in, and has incredible levels of detail, alongside being technically sound, which I love to see. I couldn't pull myself away from this game despite its iterative nature, and I really hope a stronger story is chosen for the next game, alongside a bigger leap forward in terms of gameplay, instead of just being another safe Sony sequel, but that's a topic for another video. Do you have time for Ghost of Yōtei? On this channel I like to give my thoughts on the game, alongside an in-depth look at the time you have to invest, because time is precious, right? If you enjoyed the video or found it useful, feel free to like and share. If you want to see more reviews, deep dives and topical videos, subscribe to the channel, and drop any suggestions for future videos down in the comments. And finally, if you want to come chat with me, you can find me over on x.com/gracious_rhino. I'm Gracious Rhino, look after each other, and I'll catch you soon.